Is it hypothetically possible that we're living in the last mortal age? Well, considering recent developments in age-related illnesses, life-prolonging medicines and supplements, and the CRISPR in vivo gene splicing techniques, many suggest cellular immortality for humans is only a decade or so away, with some suggesting it could be realised before the turn of the decade. There are equally as many who consider such predictions to be along the same lines as fusion. It's always just 50 years away. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Lounge, a place for clarity, curiosity and quiet thought. And today I wanted to talk about the innovations we're seeing in aging and age-related illnesses and take it through to an uncomfortable conclusion. In this video we will be talking about life, immortality, death, grief and other subjects some may find upsetting. I trust you'll use your own judgment in determining if you wish to watch the video in its entirety. At the cellular level, aging is driven by several key mechanisms. Telomere shortening with each cell division, senescence where cells stop dividing but don't die, releasing inflammatory signals, mitochondrial dysfunction reducing energy production and increasing oxidative damage, DNA damage and epigenetic drift where the instructions for gene expression degrade over time, and each of these have their own scientific breakthroughs as of late. Telomerase activation has already shown promise in mice and human cells. Telomerase is similar to the plastic aglet on the end of your shoelace. If you cut that off, the shoelace frays and falls apart. Each time a cell divides within our bodies, the telomerase doesn't copy over completely. Each time it shortens very slightly until eventually it's gone completely, something called the Hayflick limit. At this point, the cell can no longer divide. Recent scientific advances have shown that we can replenish the telomerase, meaning the cells can continue to divide for much longer, and in some cases, in perpetuity, a condition known as cellular immortality. And this really isn't science fiction, it's been proved in the lab, but it also occurs in nature. Giant land tortoise, certain species of jellyfish, lobsters, and even naked mole rats are biologically immortal, meaning that if they're kept free from infection, disease or illness, fed correctly and avoid predation, they could theoretically live indefinite lifespans. Another innovation is senolytics, drugs that remove senescent cells, and they're already in human trials. CRISPR and other gene editing tools are being tested to repair DNA damage, modifying age-related genes like Klotho, FOXO3 and SIRT1, and restore youthful gene expression. There's been immense development showing the ability to literally reverse aging of mice. CRISPR allows scientists to control gene editing with the equivalent exquisite precision of a scalpel, rather than the more primitive methods developed through the 70s to early 2000s, using engineered proteins to recognize DNA sequences to create double-strand breaks. This method was complex, laborious, and less precise. And since 2023, there have been numerous human trials utilizing CRISPR, including phenomenal breakthroughs in cancer research, a cause particularly close to my heart. Partial cellular reprogramming, Yamanaka factors, can rewind epigenetic aging in cells without turning them into stem cells, going a little too far back. This is already being trialled in vivo. We're really not talking science fiction anymore, we're talking phase 1 and phase 2 human trials. What makes this era unique isn't just biological research, it's the convergence of numerous fields. AI drug discovery, for example like deep minds, AlphaFold, in silico medicine, is slashing the time from target to treatment. Nanomedicine and targeted delivery systems are increasing the precision of gene therapies and pharmaceuticals. Bioprinting and organ regeneration are addressing organ failure, one of aging's final frontiers, if you will, and even wearables and diagnostics are enabling personalized, real-time health optimizations. In short, we're beginning to treat aging not as an inevitability, but as a medical condition, one with potential cures. But then that ultimately begs the question, are we living in the last mortal age? This depends on how you define mortal and how you frame it. We are the first generation seriously attempting to decouple biological aging from chronological time. It is plausible, though not certain, that those under the ages of 40 to 50 today might have access to life-extending or even life-indefinitely prolonging therapies within their lifetimes. This concept, popularised by Aubrey de Grey and others, suggests that if we can extend life expectancy by just a few more years every year, eventually we can stay ahead of biological decline indefinitely. Ray Kurzweil, futurist and Google engineer, suggests we might hit this point in the late 2030s. Personally, I think this is a little over-optimistic, but the facts of the matter are that we are genuinely closer now than we have ever been to be able to stop the biological clock from ticking. But that would also be massively oversimplifying the subject. So let's assume those innovations suddenly hit the market tomorrow. Are we ready to be immortal? Would it be available to everyone or only the super rich? And what does human civilization look like in a post-aging world? If we are the last mortal age, psychologically humanity will need to redefine what it means to live a full life. Ethically, access to these technologies will raise stark class, equity, and resource questions. Culturally, death may shift from the central existential anchor to a rare tragedy or personal choice. Theologically, immortality will challenge religious doctrines centered on the afterlife. And what of meaning if our lives are no longer constrained by the urgency of finitude? Well, before we keep going, it's worth stopping and reconsidering exactly what we're talking about here. First and foremost, let's talk complexity. Aging is not one pathway. It's hundreds of different variables all happening within a living entity, a chemical and biological churning pot that is constantly acting and reacting to internal and external stimuli. Solving a few of these issues related to aging may not stop the rest, meaning we may prolong lifespans and with better health and well-being at the same time, but we might not put the brakes on death through natural causes. Beyond this, there may be a plethora of unforeseen side effects. Pushing cells past their natural limits might increase cancer risk or cause unknown downstream issues. The very reason that cancer kills us is because cancer cells are immortal. Cancer cells are considered functionally immortal because they override the normal cell death signals and bypass the aging process, allowing them to divide indefinitely. Eventually, this division takes up the vast majority of the resources our bodies need to sustain life and take over more and more of the bodily functions until normal organ function is no longer possible, giving our bodies the ability to achieve infinite cellular division may birth super cancers that no current medical interventions can treat. Even if we simultaneously cure all cancers, which we are making serious headway towards, how would our minds react to lives that span hundreds of years? Alzheimer's, dementias, and even general age-related memory loss could become crippling. Our brains have only a limited amount of electrochemical storage capacity. Yes, it encodes it in a very clever way, but once you reach that capacity, would older memories be overwritten, or would newer ones simply not encode? And even if all of that works out correctly, there's still the issue of time. Even with rapid progress, widespread safe application could take 20 to 30 years, not 10, meaning that during the rollout process, there would still be people dying who would have wanted to have benefited from such innovations, but they just weren't got to in time. And even in that, there are complications. Not everyone wants to live forever. Some may push back on ethical, religious, economic, or ecological grounds. This could cause a societal divide of gargantuan proportions. And what of our children? Would this medical intervention be limited to us as individuals, or would it be passed on to our children? If it isn't, this would mean a child, when they reach adulthood, would have to make the choice to receive the immortality upgrades, while their parents did not, or make the choice to age and die naturally while their parents remain. If it's passed down, we get a booming population of immortal human beings, and overpopulation is already a concern in our modern world. If people don't die of old age, we then have to take a serious look at overpopulation, limiting birth rates, how we're going to provide food and water for a population that doesn't die. This may push human endeavours into space and colonisation of other worlds, but could just as easily cripple human civilization. But there's another more poignant realisation that rears its ugly head as you consider life in an immortal world. The death of dying peacefully. In a world where aging is cured, the image of a serene deathbed surrounded by loved ones may become a historical relic. Instead, people will die from accidents, violence, unforeseen catastrophic events. The new cause of death becomes entropy by chaos, not entropy by biology. Even in a utopia of advanced medicine, there will still be plane crashes, falls from cliffs, car crashes, fires, machinery failures, radiation leaks, wars, famine, droughts, and the worst of all, the loss of a will to continue. Statistically, over a long enough time horizon, even a 0.0001% annual risk compounds towards certainty. We just trade the predictable decay of aging for the unpredictable roll of existential dice. There's something tragic, even cruel, about that shift. To live 300 years and then die suddenly in a meaningless car crash. To raise families, see civilizations rise and fall, accumulate memories spanning centuries, then vanish in an industrial accident. To remember every death because memory is no longer dulled by time or senescence. Grief may become deeper, not easier. Imagine a partner you've loved for 600 years gone in an instant. How long until that wound heals, if ever? Immortality would bring with it new problems, new pathologies, survivor's guilt extended over centuries, apathy as life loses its urgency and novelty, existential dread, knowing that trauma, not time, is your real executioner. Risk aversion, to a degree so extreme it might halt progress or adventure. It may force societies to develop new rituals, celebrations of continuance. Congratulations, you made it another century. Grief sanctuaries to treat chronic mourning. Death simulations to psychologically prepare and inoculate people to eventual trauma. Even voluntary deaths. Elective departures, or digital ascensions, not from illness but from choice. But all of that is in the supposition that this immense innovation will be available to everyone. But what if it's not? In the not so distant future, the tools to extend life won't be the limiting factor. The real obstacle will be who gets to access them. And the reasons are not technical, they're systemic, economical, and political. CRISPR-based in vivo gene therapies are already being tested with remarkable precision. In principle, once refined, a one-and-done injection could turn off protective genes like the FOXO3 or CLOTHO. It could silence harmful ones like PCSK9 for cholesterol. It could repair epigenetic drift or mitochondrial decline. But who would get it? And if it's only a few, why would they hoard it? That's where our current system falters. There are a few key and sadly very realistic reasons as to why this wouldn't be rolled out to everyone. Profit motive over collective good. The biotech industry is built on patent exclusivity and profit margins. A one-shot cure is less profitable than chronic therapies, so corporations may slow its rollout or fragment it into repeat treatments. Wealth protection. If immortality or even multi-century lifespans is granted only to the elite, the ultra-wealthy could literally live forever, preserving their control, capital and influence. That is a terrifying scenario where death is democratized, but longevity is monopolized. Social instability. Governments may fear overpopulation, and rightly so. They may fear social upheaval and restrict life-extending tech under the guise of stability or bioethics. The state may choose to delay rollout until infrastructure is ready, which becomes a convenient excuse for generational gatekeeping. But surely the benefit that would come of making a workforce that could work for centuries, experts in given fields with the combined knowledge of decades and a burgeoning workforce, would outweigh the reasons to keep it exclusive. And yes, the argument for broad distribution is just as strong as the one against it. First and foremost, social stability. A two-tier lifespan society, sort of immortals versus immortals, that's kind of guaranteed to collapse. The only way to preserve peace is to equalize opportunity, or at least access to the baseline rejuvenations. Economic productivity, imagine the GDP impact of workers who are healthy for 150 years, who don't retire at 65, who get better with age. The return on investment for curing aging would be astronomically high, doubly more so if it's made widely available. Longer lives would equal more polymaths, more experts, more breakthroughs, more stability. A hyper-aged, wise, experienced society could advance science, art and governance at an exponential rate. So there is incentive, but only if our models of economy and governance evolve to accommodate the new reality. To avoid dystopia, several changes would likely be required. Governments might eventually classify rejuvenation therapies as a human right, like clean water or vaccines. This could start with public health funding or open source biotech models. Groups like the Biohackers or Open Insulin Project show it's possible to decentralize medical advancements. CRISPR kits, plasmids, viral vectors, many are already available for personal or community research labs. Similar to climate agreements, we may need a longevity accord where nations commit to ethical distribution of anti-aging technologies. So it's not necessarily all doom and gloom. But the reality is that in defying the biological limitations of our bodies, we open ourselves to the chaos of an uncertain world. But we live that every day. Every single day. People are afraid of flying because when a plane falls from the sky, generally speaking, nobody survives. Yet, it's the safest method of transport in existence. Statistically, if you actually survive the car ride to the airport, you survive the most dangerous part of that journey. Yet, we happily hop into our cars every day and drive on roads to and from school or work or play. And we never really consider that that car ride could have been our last. So would human ignorance actually be our best friend in that scenario? We could be several hundred years old, out driving just as we have been for centuries, our bodies still youthful, our minds still clear and cognizant, not knowing this car ride is going to be our last. Ignorance is bliss. Yes, it would mean the end of dying peacefully in our beds, surrounded by loved ones. Assuming our last moments, in whatever chaos befalls us, are painless, it would only be painful for those we leave behind. That's true of life right now. Our loved ones who die don't feel the pain of their absence. Only we do. And we find a way to continue to exist without them. The pain never really goes away. You just learn to go on. One day, not so long after they pass, you find yourself laughing at a bad joke. You get immersed in a new project, take up a new hobby, meet someone new. Life goes on. The question we have to ask ourselves is this: does the potential of an indefinite lifespan outweigh the near certainty of a chaotic demise? Is that worth the trade-off? Or would you choose to live several hundred years and finally choose to go out on your own terms, through voluntary means? And is that all the more tragic? Or just tragic in a different way? Tragic in the same way? There are 1,001 questions we have to ask ourselves if society is to walk this particular path. And 1,001 answers will only spawn more questions. Do we trust our humanity and our wisdom enough to wield a tool as powerful as this? Are we ready to be the last mortal humans? Have the last mortal humans already passed? Will it be freely available to all, or kept locked away by the elites? These questions have to be asked, and have to be answered. We're quite possibly on the cusp of a new era for humanity, and it will be a revolution that will very quickly get away from us, and policy made in haste, in the midst of the crisis that follows, is not an ideal time to consider these questions. They have to be asked now. People like you, those who understand the situation and understand the science and the human cost. People like you need to speak. People like me need to speak. We need to question, to build, to teach, and to demand better. Because this isn't a hypothetical. It's a scientific revolution that is happening right now. It's in the labs. We're on human trials. This is happening whether we like it or not. We are finding a way to push back the biological clock. And in some capacities, that'll be a very good thing. But it could equally be absolute chaos. It could mean that we could live longer, happier lives. We could get older but not feel the infirmities of age. We wouldn't feel the aches and pains, the loss of memory, diminishing sight, diminishing hearing. We could live and feel as we do in our 20s, but be 80, 90, in our hundreds. That's a good thing. Aging without infirmity, aging without pain. Because unfortunately at the moment, pain is one of the defining traits of aging. But it doesn't have to be. Now, that potential is good. But we push it to its absolute extreme, where we all become cellularly immortal. We all get to our mid-20s and just stop aging. Overpopulation's a problem. Our system is not ready for immortal humanity. This planet will not sustain us for long. We will need to branch out into the cosmos. Are we ready for that? Are our space programs ready for that? Do we have the technology to build colonies on other worlds? The simple answer right now is no, we don't. Can we scale the resources that we have on our planet now for a population that doesn't die? We're already struggling. There's already drought. There's already famine. Add more of us to the world. What's that going to cause? And yes, it means there's more hands for work, but there's problems there as well. Because once time becomes infinite, why get up and work when there's always tomorrow? Why get up and do anything because there's always tomorrow? But that's the point of this video. There isn't always tomorrow, even in an immortal world. Because everyone's survival rates, once it's extended long enough, drops to zero. This is happening right now. And we need to make sense of it. Our duty to question now is of paramount importance. Because we're looking at the civil rights movement of the future. So we best be making the right decisions. And the only way to do that is to ask questions. And until next time.